If I mention that scream from Psycho, I'm sure you can all hear Janet Leigh's iconic screaming in your head from the movie, but she proved herself to be more than just a high-pitched voice in Hollywood. Janet's creativity didn't end on the screen. Did you know that Leigh was also a published author and wrote books? Not just one, she was a gifted writer, as well as an actress. If there is one thing movies do in human society, it's to make us look idealistically stupid. This was the case when astute director Alfred Hitchcock, more than half a century ago, tricked moviegoers with a make-believe body of beautiful Janet Leigh in his masterpiece Psycho, and like a cult stealthy, it remained one of the top secrets shrouding the much-celebrated career life of the stunning lady and her vivacious image in Hollywood. But before we dive in, calling all Golden Age enthusiasts, test your knowledge with our free Golden Age quiz. Click the link in the description to challenge yourself and discover if you're a true Icardo or not. It is a well-thought-out idea between one of the most celebrated Hollywood filmmakers and ambitious actress of the era, efficiently executed in a way that ensured the film generated as much income as possible before the truth is revealed. And Janet Leigh, of course, is the thriller bombshell behind the movie. When Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho began screening in 1960, the central theme of the classic whodunit became such a huge mystery to its audience. Viewers were shockingly thrilled by a particular scene that would make the movie a huge box office success. Almost everyone, including movie critics, applauded the production and the level of creativity in place, but it seems the most creative part of the production was the behind-the-scene decision taken by the producer and the entire crew. Some of the decisions included its distribution policy, the sluggish rollout that spanned for months in line with the decision to maintain the film's secrecy. Paramount Studio and Hitchcock in particular did not hesitate to confiscate Robert Biel's novel that was published a year earlier, as Hitchcock purchased all the copies of the book just to keep the movie plot twists concealed. In the same way, no detailed information was given to top Hollywood execs and cinema owners concerning the film. The very tricky scene in question, analysts say, is one of the most disreputable scenes ever filmed. FMed. But the most interesting side of the concealment is that Hitchcock and Janet Leigh, the Wonder Lady who supposedly played the very curious act Marin Crane, did not also tell the truth about it. White Hitchcock was cunningly insinuating how difficult it was to get the extract accomplished. Janet Leigh was deceptively telling her audience that she regretted ever playing the role. None ever disclosed the true story of body doubles or the mystery of the murder. In the run-up up to the release of the movie, Hitchcock embarked on an aggressive promotion to create the requisite suspense. Some of the adopted strategies that heightened curiosity were the policy that no one will be admitted to the theater after the start of each performance. That inscription on the promo ad was accompanied by an angular-looking image of Hitchcock wiggling a finger. I also heard that the filming was done on a closed set, even as all cast and crew members were made to sign a non-disclosure agreement, basically about not mentioning how the film ended to anyone or its editing pattern. There were no advanced screenings either, and the stage was set to thrill thousands of the audience at this time. It is no longer debatable that the horror film used Janet Leigh's body double in creating that horrific shower scene, which still makes some people shiver each time they step into a shower. What is now the news is that the body double has also opened up about some of the best-kept secrets about the iconic production. Janet Leigh, who was doing radio programs before her earliest venture into acting, benefited from the entire secrecy because that production gave her superstardom. After her film debut in the play The Romance of Rosie Ridge, she became a film regular for MGM, appearing in several movies in different genres, from crime drama to romantic comedies, western drama. As the case may be, before Psycho, Janet Leigh had remarkably played in Orson Welles' film noir Touch of Evil and had previously co-starred with Robert Mitchum in the romantic comedy Holiday Affair, as put together by RKO Radio Pictures. After playing the provocative role of Marion Crane in the much-talked-about Psycho that year, Janet Leigh became a household name, achieving her greatest career success, earning the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actress, an Academy Award nomination. After watching a seemingly nude body with no head in that iconic scene, fans besiege Hitchcock and Leigh concerning the body. The two all maintained that the body was that of Janet Leigh, whereas it belonged to a model identified as Marley Renfro. This implies that the images in the movie with the face cut off in the shots are that of Janet Leigh's body double. Born Janet Helen Morrison sometime in 1927, Janet Leigh is the only child of her parents Helen Leda and Frederick Morrison. She grew up in Stockton after her family relocated from Meard, her birthplace. It was not easy for little Morrison Janet Leigh, who found her family swimming in abject poverty as a child, not with her father's meager factory employment income that left them needy most times. Expectedly, little Leigh would have to depend on her creativity if she will ever succeed, as she obediently lived under the Presbyterian faith and sang in the local church choir for as long as possible. At 16, Leigh graduated from high school and would wait for Providence to come her way while intermittently guest starring on radio programs, and sooner actress Norma Shira was on holiday in her neighborhood when she picked interest in young and cute Janet. On returning to Los Angeles, it was not Difficult for Scheer to convince Irving Thalberg, the head of production at MGM, to bring her in, as she stated later. Lee's smile made her the most fascinating face she'd seen in years. With no acting knowledge, the young beauty was signed and placed under Lillian Burns, who effectively took, her critics say, Alfred Hitchcock in that 3-minute scene made movie making history when he created the infamous shower act that saw wanted office employee Crane depicted by Janet Leigh knifed to death in a bathtub by scary motel entrepreneur Norman Bates, portrayed by Anthony Perkins. Stakeholders at this time marveled at the way he was able to effectively pull the trick on his audience and kept millions in perpetual fear all through its runs, with some saying that the controversy it generated ultimately broke barriers of on-screen violence. An observer once suggested that the movie is a true reflection of what Hitchcock represented in the movie industry, his fears, obsessions, moral universe. A filmmaker who just knew how to twist emotions and achieve the desired effect. Hitchcock's careful combination of Janet Leigh and Marley Renfro, an ex-Las Vegas showgirl and Playboy bunny, was the bombshell that created one of the most famous horror movies in history. And for Renfro, the nude scene was not difficult for her because of her show career background. At the time, she was a 21-year-old magazine model that was hinted at Hitchcock's latest movie idea by paparazzo Mario Seeley. The job was that director needed a body double for Leigh, leading to a camera confirmation that their bodies were a match. After she unclothed, Renfro would appear first on set in a topless dress with only her crotch concealed by a rubber covering. Reacting later, she said she had thought, "Oh my God, they're expecting this," though no one made any jokes or anything. It's something she does regularly, so it was not difficult doing one for the film. "I was very comfortable being without clothes," she was quoted. "The tricky fact is that most of the uncovered body in the movie is her body." Renfro recalled wearing a red sequin ball gown for her part in the shower scene, while Leigh was dressed in a cream-colored one-piece bathing suit. The camera completed the deception by covering the lower side of her body, eliminating from her breast upward. Renfro told interviewers that "If you don't see her face, that's me," and for the blood depicting the murder is watered down Hershey's syrup, carefully used to create the effect of Norman disastrously stabbing Marin, and overtly manipulated by double off-camera crewmen splashing R with chocolate. Did Renfro say a certain man was uneasy watching her body while the filming was ongoing? She said it made her feel the man had never been this close to a bare female body without having sex. Her finger would have created a loose end. She recalled Renfro's ring finger was faintly darker, caused by a childhood lawn mower accident that severed the tip. That too was quickly handled after she told Hitchcock about it, since he wanted a close-up of her finger. Hitchcock was as thorough as he could be because Renfro was contracted for just 2 days or so engagement, but the shooting extended up to a week. He wanted to close every loose angle. At some point, Rowe was expected to grab the shower curtain. Hitchcock had to attach a measuring tape to the camera lens. "Comes over and puts the point of it on my left nipple. Breast is just out of focus. The cutting is so fast." Renfro recalled, all gear toward W.S. perfection. Marley Renfro, the Dallas-born showgirl, disappeared after the movie and was almost forgotten, but for a news report in 2001 that announced a 34-year-old handyman had been sentenced for violating and strangling her, a crime that happened about 12 years before the ruling and was unsolved for such an extended period. The initial report suggested that Kenneth Dean Hunt, the handyman, was found guilty of killing 2 women, including an actress who was a body for Janet Leigh and the film Psycho. Although the report refers to the victim as actress Myra Davis, it was later revealed that it is Renfro's official name. But it did not end there, because later findings suggest that the Myra Davis that was killed was different from that of Renfro, and that Renfro, who acted as Janet Leigh's body double, was still alive, hale and hearty. Further inquiry showed that the mix-up was that while Renfro was Leigh's body double on Psycho, the dead Davis was her standing. A few questions had arisen suggesting whether the killer handyman was a psycho-obsessive who wanted to kill Leigh's body double but mistook the standing for his target. To cut a long story short, the real Marley Renfro was busy with her daily routine, living her life to the full somewhere in California with no idea she had been reported dead. She learned of the news after an investigator told her about it. Renfro is a happy lady who had no interest in her past career or life, and so never bothered to read articles about herself, not when her ex-husband made her destroy all her time-worn glamour images out of jealousy. This may just be the reason Renfro was satisfied with her $500 one-off payment for the Psycho act and stayed off from a film that was reported to have made up to $15 million in its first year of release. Even as Janet Leigh was telling the world how ashamed she was filming the shower scene, Hitchcock supported her narrative. Psycho was unwrapped on double Manhattan displays and in 3 other metropolises in June that year. Hooked on 20 Los Angeles screens by August, Hitchcock vowed that no one will be let into the theater if the movie started showing. Hitchcock didn't want audiences to enter halfway down and become curious about Janet Leigh's position and idea. He also buttressed in a press conference at a daring presentation policy. Psycho was an adaptation of Lott's novel, which was motivated by Ed G.Y., a factual Wisconsin Killer. The reason Hitchcock bought the book copies for a trivial $9,000. This, as I said earlier, was just to create suspense, but it turns out a big marketing hanger as moviegoers perfectly adjusted to it, contrary to the usual practice of arriving at any time they wanted and joining any movie on display. If necessary, they repeat the movie on its next showing if it caught their fancy. Anthony Perkins was built above Janet Leigh in that movie, but Leigh made a bigger gain from the movie, at least so it seems. When Joseph Stefano scripted the production, there were major alterations to Botch's book, including Leigh's character in that production. Hitchcock was lucky. Paraman XEX unwillingly invested $800,000 in the thriller, and it paid off for them. After the production, Janet Leigh spoke about the movie, telling fans that she shared the audience's shock by saying, "I believed that knife went into me. It was horrifying. I could feel it, and that was it." Everyone believed her. Janet Leigh was married 4 times, but one union stood out in her life: her third marriage with actor Tony Curtis in a Connecticut private ceremony. Their initial romance and later marriage were always in the news as gossip columnists, and their newspapers were busy with each stage of the affair. For their banner headlines, Leigh and Curtis were passionately in love, even as they had to co-star in several local movies together, as directed by Jerry Lewis. That marriage produced 2 daughters, but hit the rocks in 1962 with a regrettable divorce. Tony Curtis was Leigh's husband at the time she played in Psycho. In his memoir, he said that the success of Psycho and the fact that the audience was all interested in Leigh and that shower scene caused his wife to indulge in heavy drinking that eventually made her break down. This, of course, according to Tony, would also lead to their divorce, as regretted that things would have been much better if Hitchcock and Leigh were more open about how the controversial scene was created to ensure that his concealment plan worked effectively. Hitchcock had to film Psycho on the Universal lot where his television series Alfred Hitchcock Presents was founded. Just so this goes his way, Hitchcock was said to have forfeited his regular salary, but at the end of the first year, a conservative estimate suggested he was earning about $6 million in personal income, creating a showbiz record at the time of production that was reported to have earned about $9 million in domestic rentals, the amount from the box office that reimbursed to the studio. This is different from what it may have earned overseas. Janet Leigh also had her talent extended to creative writing, with about 4 books to her credit. Her first marriage as a teenager was short-lived after it was annulled. She was also married briefly to Stanley Reams before her union with Tony. When that marriage ended, Leigh married her last husband, but at this time age and time were no longer on her side. Janet Leigh died in 2004 when she turned 77 after battling for a year or so with vasculitis. Check out this video: why Audie Murphy pulled a gun on his wife. Remember, the golden age of Hollywood holds countless untold stories waiting to be discovered.